It's Friday, and that means it's another edition, very special edition, I might add, of the Zogby Report, real and unscripted. And as always, I'm in Virginia, now visiting with our son Ben and his family, and Jeremy is holding down the fort back in upstate New York. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. You?
Good, very good. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the election, of course. And let me just a brief preface, and then I know that there's some stuff that you especially want to talk about. But I mean, the preface to this, first of all, is us. You and I run a business, right? And our business is to get more business. And one of the things that we market is the fact that we've got a good record of being accurate and being intelligent. And I think we showed that in the lead up to Tuesday and the election analysis afterward. So just as a disclaimer, we're not bragging, we're just marketing. That's all. When you're right and you do something right, you got to let your clients and other folks know that. So we got that out of the way. So now, how were we right? So I did a lot of TV, and you did a number of panels. And throughout, we were with, I was with a number of Republican pollsters. We're going to win all the battleground states. We're going to take the House by 35 to 40 seats. We're going to win in places nobody ever thought we're going to win. This is going to be a red tsunami. And you and I were always skeptical of that because we were looking at numbers, mainly our own, but actually even numbers of some of the more prominent pollsters. And we just never saw that. And in fact, if anything, the election comported a whole lot more to what we were seeing in actual numbers and in our analysis of that. And so I was not surprised by what happened as of this moment. So Democrats have 48 seats in the Senate locked. They are waiting for what will probably happen, a Mark Kelly victory in Arizona. It's kind of looking insurmountable. That's 49 seats. Republicans have 49 seats and are looking for what's probably going to happen. We have to hedge, right? A Laxalt Republican victory in Nevada. And so that's 50 to 49. And the one seat, Georgia, kind of unpredictable at this point. Warnock actually won the vote, but it looks like 49.2 to 43.5, something like that over Walker. Anybody's guess in the December 6th election. Looks like prominent Republicans of all stripes are going to flock to Georgia and campaign for Herschel Walker. Stakes are very high, but Democrats win, it's right back to 50-50. Republicans win, that's huge, 51 to 49, especially if, still an if, they take the House as well. Democrats picked up governors. So far in the House of Representatives, Democrats have picked up 9 seats. A lot of the 27 uncalled races so far are really too close to call. Whatever it is, it doesn't look likely that it's a big Republican victory, but even a small Republican victory would interest me because we're in New York. So far, it looks like Republicans have picked up 9 seats. 4 of those seats that they picked up are from New York itself, 2 on Long Island and 1 in the Hudson Valley that bleeds into New York, upstate New York, and then 1 right here in upstate central New York. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm going to mirror what you said earlier that, we were accurate. In fact, I want to get a montage because I can think of 6 or 7 bullet points you've said over the last year about the same amount that I've said that laid out, what could happen and what was likely to happen, what was unlikely to happen. The first thing I said, and I can pinpoint the moment in this podcast, was after Youngkin's victory, turning Virginia back red after Virginia had gone blue in 2020, was I said, it's the independents. The independents got tired of Biden's America, and the Republicans had a better ground game. But I said these exact words: Republicans, watch out for hubris. Okay, don't let it get to your head. Throughout the rest of the year, I watched inflation become a part of our modern day vernacular. Probably, when they do those like top trending words on Google or on YouTube, and you see the map. Well, I am convinced that the word inflation became one of the most used terms in the English language in the Western world. And so I watched that, and I said, that is an advantage for the Republicans. But again, what happens when hubris kicks in? Of course, the ancients will tell us nemesis kicks in. And so we tracked it, and we showed how inflation was the top issue, but it didn't put it in the bag for the Republicans. Why? Because you still have to get the independents. And what we saw when we did our independent polling, I've talked about this, the nature of independence is to sit on the fence, to sit back and watch what's going on. And lo and behold, the thing that didn't pull independents by and large into the Republican camp was the incessant claim of voter fraud or election fraud, which you can understand how that riles up Republicans. But why would independents like that when that became tantamount to the definitive stance of being a MAGA Republican, or even just being a Republican? Essentially, a vote for MAGA from an independent would be tantamount to leaving their independent status and becoming full-fledged MAGA, which I just didn't see days before the election. And so it played out. We see it in the exit polls. It's not that the independents tilted a little Democrat. I mean, they got, Arizona, the Democrats won the independents. Georgia, the Democrats won the independents. Pennsylvania, they won the independents. New Hampshire, but independents slightly leaned Republican in Ohio, for example, maybe Nevada, or close enough, and Wisconsin. So really, the grand story here is everybody's focusing on the Republican wave that didn't come, and that is the top story. But to me, the bigger story is, truthfully, both parties failed. We are still in gridlock. We are still a divided nation. Even independents are divided along this front line of Republican and Democrat. And so we, like you said, it's the Senate is a toss-up. The House looks to be like it probably, as of this moment, probably goes Republican, but we still don't know. The governorships are basically divided. There's one more Republican than a Democratic governor. So what that says to me is neither party can build strong consensus among Americans. We can't get that 55 or even 60% solid majority consensus to go one way. And what it shows you is Trumpism is failing. I don't see, because Trump had increasingly turned his platform into himself. I mean, going so far as to these rallies, almost making the rallies more about him than about the candidates that were supposed to get elected. And so he's toxic. We saw what happened in Florida, where DeSantis emerged as the clear winner. Now, people will say, well, that's probably because of all the voters from New York and New Jersey and those states that lost voters that moved to Florida. There's truth to that, but I don't know that Florida netted 1 million or 2 million voters from out of state. I think Floridians just, look, DeSantis won big. The point is this: Trump may be on the downfall. I don't know if it hurts the Republicans because they can move right to DeSantis and not miss a beat because there's some similarities there. Although I think DeSantis is much more clever in terms of not being a narcissist, a toxic narcissist. And so I can see that happening within the Republican Party, maybe a civil war before Trump is, totally removed, like General Pompey. And then, so the question is, what happens on the Democratic side? We're hearing that Biden's going to run. Can Biden maintain his dominance over the party? I don't know. I don't know. But the larger question that looms is which party is going to build a strong consensus within America. We definitely need to move beyond this nearly 50-50 divide. And right now, I just don't see it happening.
So let me jump in here with some observations. So number one, the Hispanic vote turned out to be very interesting. Normally, Hispanics go 65-70% Democrat in most elections, and the pre-election polls were showing not quite, but almost an even split. 47-48% choosing Democrats, 42-43% choosing Republicans. The exit polls were 60% of Hispanics voted Democrat, 39% voted Republican. Those are along the lines of the numbers that George W. Bush got in 2000, but otherwise few Republicans have been able to manage. But still, it was not the more even spread that the pre-election polls were showing. In terms of the black vote, something that ought to concern Democrats is that 13% of blacks voted Republican. They were mainly younger blacks. And what's intriguing about that is that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider that there's almost a 1-for-1 ratio among blacks between voting and voting Democrat, any vote that's lost looms pretty large. So instead of counting on 90+%, or in the case of Barack Obama running 93-96%, the two times that he ran, of getting the black vote, you're now looking at Democrats counting on 86-87% of blacks. Young people did not vote in great numbers. 18 to 29-year-olds were about 12% of the total. That is a problem for Democrats. The good news, though, is in the battleground states. The good news for Democrats, that is that in the battleground states, anywhere from 66% of 18 to 29-year-olds to 74% of that age group did vote Democrat. And so the battle for Democrats now is to make sure that more of those voters actually turn out. And interestingly, I'm going to get into the issues in a second here. The number two issue among young people, among 18 to 29-year-olds, was climate change, and that was a principal motivator for them. Now, let's look at the top issues and underscore what you said. Inflation was number one.
Yeah.
32% of those who voted said that inflation was the number one issue. Republicans won 44% of those who said inflation was the number one issue. Abortion was the number two issue. 27% said it was the top issue they voted on. Democrats got 81% of those who said that abortion was the top issue. The other issues were further down. Crime and immigration were at 12 and 10%, I believe, benefited Republicans, but cannot forget how important the Dobbs decision and the issue of abortion was to Democrats. Finally, just responding to a point you made, underneath all of this is a mess. I'm just going to focus on the GOP mess for the time being. Should, and it looks likely, should Kevin McCarthy become the Speaker of the House, Republican takeover, it's not going to be a big majority, it doesn't look like, for Republicans in the House, but it will be one that appears to empower the very right wing of the party, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, Lauren Boebert, who still is fighting to win hers, Louis Gohmert, and folks like that. And if that's the case, most folks are projecting that we're going to be looking at investigations of Joe Biden, investigations of Hunter Biden, not a shutdown, but a reorientation of the January 6th committee. We're going to be looking for a whole lot more noise on the Republican side. Whereas on the Senate side, folks that have been talking to Mitch McConnell, who himself is 81, 82 years old, and who is, let's say, somewhat of a friend of Joe Biden, and who are saying that what's going on in Mitch McConnell's mind is, look, we just can't be a party that makes noise. If we're going to be in charge, then we have to make policy. And you're going to see a real split there between, a further split there between folks like McConnell, who are going to have their photo ops with Joe Biden and try to ensure that there's a smoother next couple of years, versus the House GOP and Kevin McCarthy, who are just going to continue the revolution as they see it. And then throw Trump into that mix, and God knows what Trump is going to do.
It's sickening because, you know, the parties are both weaponized. And from based on what the Republicans got going back to 2016 in terms of nonstop investigations and impeachments, they're just going to come right back and do the same thing. No surprise there. Well, what does that do for the country? What does that do for our political system? It just more tension, more division. And so if I were to talk to the RNC and the DNC, I would just say, you know what, we've had enough. Enough is enough. I understand the Democratic rage, I understand the Republican rage, but move on, and instead of looking externally, look internally within your own parties. You're both out of whack. You're both forgetting about what voters are facing. So to the Democrats, I would say to them, you have lost your touch of being the party of the people, the party of the working people, the party of the downtrodden. You are the Davos party. You are the elitist party, and you need to get rid of that. You need to move away from that. You need to start listening to observing what voters are going through, and orient your policy towards their living standard, which is decreasing. I don't see that changing. 2023, by all accounts, whether you're looking at it from an investor perspective, manufacturing perspective, it's looking bad. Okay, so focus on that. To the Republicans, you know, you've got to move beyond look at what you've done, and look at how the Republican red wave didn't come. It didn't come because you weren't setting the world on fire. You didn't convince the independents to come to your camp. You've got to change your strategy, and again, you got to move away from attacking the other party and focus on the voters. And that's the problem: is both parties, the leadership, are not focusing on the voters. They're focusing on their vengeance. And I don't think I could put it any more clear than that.
And I think I'm going to let you have the last word. You and I are agreeing a lot more these days. Maybe we're spending too much time with each other. We'll get edgy later on, but I think I'm in total agreement, you know. So
well, it's just a sad day that here we are after 22 years. Nonstop division. I mean, yeah, there were little breaks in the road when Obama won, but man, Obama crashed real fast. And of course we'll say, well, that was enough of the blame game, guys. Let's look within and reinvent yourself. And you know, I can tell you right now, Trump he has zero. I would be shocked if he reinvented himself and he did along the lines of what I'm doing. That he showed agility. I think he's too far gone. I don't think he can do that.
Well, we are seeing a situation where prominent Republicans, now I'm talking about an op-ed by Karl Rove in the Wall Street Journal, the Murdoch folks, and the Washington Examiner, which is read, by Republicans and conservatives, all saying that time for Trump to get out of the picture. And I think that you're going to see more and more of that. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you started hearing more vocally from Mitch McConnell about Donald Trump. Now, just one final note is I heard an anecdote that I thought was interesting that's kind of germane to the point that I made earlier. Mitch McConnell's book, in which he and Biden go back a long ways, and they really can't be called bosom buddies. But McConnell said the difference between Joe Biden and Barack Obama is that McConnell would walk into the Oval Office and Obama would say, I know where you stand, I know what you're thinking, but here's what's right. Let me tell you what I'm thinking and why you're wrong. Let's negotiate. Whereas Joe Biden would say, how's the family? I know where you stand. I know we have disagreements. Let's find common ground. And arguably, maybe those two old gentlemen, before they pass the public scene, might be able to persuade their parties to get some business done. We still have to pass a fiscal year budget in this country, and I'm not sure, given everything that's going on, that before the end of this year, having to battle over whether to shut down the government is never appropriate. But right now, it's one of the worst things that can happen. And I'm done.
I would just say that I'm already disappointed in Biden. Yesterday, his answering questions from journalists, and one of them what he's going to do different, what he will do different, and he said nothing. So I expect nothing to change. Biden should one could say, hey, we performed better than expected, but you didn't set the world on fire. You've got to do things differently, and I just don't know that they're willing to. Like I said, I don't think either side are gonna learn from these results.
So let's talk about Biden next week, maybe. But as always, we're real and unscripted, so we'll see what happens. Have a good week.
Yep, you too.